The Beastmen, their update. It's finally here, and with it we get a ton of new units being added in with the Silence and the Fury DLC for Total War Warhammer 2. Taurox the Brass Bull brings Doombulls, great Bray Shamans, Ghorgons, just so many units to the roster that people have been requesting for years. The Beastmen have always been in a weird place with a really high skill ceiling, but requiring a lot of finesse to really get off the ground. In today's video, we're going to go over all the units that are being added with this DLC, including the FLC Lord, the Great Bray Shaman. I know a number of people have covered this subject already, but I truly believe the Beastmen really made out with a ton of goodies this DLC. The Lizardmen were already in a decent enough place. The only disappointment with them is that the geomantic web wasn't redone. But the Beastie Boys got lots of love, and we're going to drill down on that. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to see more of these videos. I've got the Lizardmen version coming out tomorrow, then the Taurox Is It Right For You video on Saturday, as well as a giveaway stream where I'll be giving away 2 DLC keys on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. PST. Lastly, if you have not yet pre-ordered the Silence and the Fury, you can do so using the link to my Nexus Store in the description. Nexus preserves the 10% pre-order discount. You get a Steam key directly from the developer, and it's a great way to support the channel. But let's get started on all the new units coming to the Beastmen roster. And who better to start us out than the Brass Bull himself, Mighty Taurox. I think this is the one that everyone always wants to see first, and so why not show him off? So let's take a look at his stat line and what he brings to the table. He is quite a durable character, and his attack animations are actually quite juicy. He can bulldoze through a lot of the opposition, much in the same way that the Doombul can, but he doesn't get locked down as easily. That was kind of an issue with the Doombul, is that his mass for some reason would have him kind of get shuttered around the battlefield. Taurox does not suffer from that, nor does the Doombull, which is quite good. But he does flaming attacks, which is great. A nice juicy 500 weapon strength with 375 armor piercing damage coming out of this bad boy. A nice 54 charge bonus. Again, great durability at 130, 85 leadership, and some great combat stats at 53 and 47. Now, as far as some other things here, I'm going to zoom back a little bit. He's kind of making some noise. We get the typical kind of loadout with him, right? We get the standard 15% missile resistance. He causes fear and courage. He also has Woodsman. We get Blood Greed as well as Slaughter's Call, the two things that Minotaurs have already had in the game. But we get his Rune Tortured Axes, which are really good. So essentially, as long as he is in combat, this is going to increase his AP weapon damage and base damage by 15%, as well as increase his melee attack up by 10, so from 53 up to 63. But we also get this, Blood Beast. It's kind of his escape ability. What it does is it'll shoot damage in an AoE around him, it'll cause fire, and it will discourage, or well, not discourage, it will reduce leadership. I think the discourage is 10, whereas burnt is 8. So if I click this ability, boom, it does that. It'll shoot everyone back so he can get out of combat. And that's always the big thing with single entity units, especially ones like this. If they get kind of corralled, that's kind of a bad term when it comes to a big cow, but when they get corralled into a location by a lot of other smaller units, they can get really hampered down. Taurox does have a good way to push through them and path through them quite well, but that gives this ability, Blood Beast, gives him that extra little bit to just kind of shoot the opposition around and let him escape combat. But then lastly, he also gets Brass Body. Again, talking about single entities and how they get focused down really hard in multiplayer. Not as big in campaign, right? In campaign, you have the ability to not get focused down as well because that's just, the AI doesn't do it. You also get Brass Body. We'll just click that. It's going to give him 40% damage resistance as well as 24 melee defense. In campaign, he is a powerhouse, and we'll go through his campaign stats in the campaign video on him, but now you can see how Taurox kind of comes to the fore as a multiplayer unit in the Beastmen roster. God, look at those idle animations. Shit, he's cool. Now moving over to the generic version of Taurox is just the Doombull. Now what I really do like, before we even jump into the stats, is just the amount of detail. I love the little like runes inscribed on him. On Taurox, he's just filled with a lot of corn effigies. So even when you look at just the quality of models of the Beastmen versus the Lizardmen, it's like, man, the Beastmen just really made out with so many cool looking units. Even when we look at the Tuskgors, the models look so sharp and high poly count by comparison, but they needed it. They deserved it. I think it was just deserves. Now, the Doombull here is pretty interesting. He serves a different purpose than Taurox. Taurox, I would argue, is way more of an upfront and personal. You're going to really just smash things apart with his higher weapon strength, with his higher durability, his better escapism. Like he plays a lot of video games. What does that mean, escapism? Doombull here in this case is a little bit, not necessarily a utility lord, but he has better utility, I think, than Taurox, which is meant to smash face, right? The Doombull gets this new ability called Dazed. So it will reduce melee defense by 10 and speed by 25%. As of the patch that's coming with this DLC, Poison's speed reduction is 15%. So this is 10% more than a poison. It's quite awesome. Term did a really good job of exemplifying this, talking about how, hey, if you have the Doombull attack a unit of Knights of the Blazing Sun, which the Empire would often field against the Beastmen, then the 25% reduction in their speed allows for other units to basically pin down those Knights of the Blazing Sun and kill them, so the Doombull can actually subvert that charge very well. If you have not seen Turin's video on this, please go and check out his highlight of all the new DLC units that have been added, both the Lizardmen and the Beastmen. But in addition to that too, we get all the same kind of accoutrement that you would expect from a Minotaur. We get Blood Greed, we get Slaughterer's Call, everything that Taurox had before. Again, a little bit lower in the armor department, down from, I think it was 120, 130 to 100. Leadership, slightly lower. Speed, melee attack, defense, again, slightly lower across the board, as well as weapon strength, coming at 340 AP value. But again, he's way better at kind of pinning things down with that dazed ability, which is quite strong. I'm going to press start battle on that. We also get Hellfire Sword, which is going to give him fire damage, as well as a 25 increase to his damage across the board, bringing it up to 575. Also, he gets Deadly Onslaught. He gets the lovely portion of Foolhardiness. And then lastly here, let's pause so I can look at the bonuses on this. He gets the Barbed Knuckle Boxing. So you notice that Taurox had 2 axes. I wish the Doombull had actually a glaive or a 2-handed great axe, because that was the way the kit was. You either, in the tabletop, you assembled a Doombull with a big giant 2-handed axe, or you assembled him with 2 axes. And that 2-axe variant was typically going to be Taurox. So I wished it was like that, but this is still a really cool alternative, because look at this. If I stack everything all together, he's getting a nice 71 melee attack that's doing fire damage and dazed, and then a nice 690 weapon strength. We can even throw this in the mix if we want. 805 weapon strength, just ready to go fisticuffs here. So a different character, and again, another thing Turn really exemplified that I like a lot is that this is a more cost-effective lord than Taurox. Taurox comes in around 2,300 fully stocked out. The Doombull fully stocked out with all of these items, which you probably wouldn't take. You probably wouldn't take all this stuff. Comes in at just 1,900, a little bit over 1,900. So you save yourself 400 some odd points to get a little bit better utility, and a lord that probably, while will be focused down, he will at least get a little bit more value for your army by being able to pin things down than Taurox probably would, who is going to be a beater of worlds in trying to kind of alpha strike something. So a great new unit here added. Let's jump into the last new lord choice before jumping into the heroes and units of the Beastmen. All right, and here is the new juicy Great Bray Shaman. And with this, we get 4 different flavors, right? Right now, we're looking at Shadows, but we also get Death, we get Wild, and we get Beasts. And each one will have a different kind of look. You can see it all, it's over here on the Tuskgors, and it'll have a different little thing on, other different coloring going on. Now, for the most part, he's just your standard kind of caster lord. We're not going to look at this guy too much. He can either have Tuskgor or Razorgor Chariot as his mount. He has all the standard accoutrement, Forbidden Rod, Arcane Conduit, which is nice for a lord level caster of the Beast variety, Scroll of Shielding, and then he gets the standard whatever you would get spell-wise for that lord. But he also gets this ability, Distorted Reality, so he'll reduce in a 40-meter radius around him melee attack, charge speed, and speed. So again, making things easier for Beastmen to capture them is pretty huge. And this is a 40-meter radius, so if you're using this chariot and you're jumping through stuff, you'll at least be slowing some things down for the rest of your army as you're kind of riding dirty. So that is your new Great Bray Shaman, but let's jump now into the new hero for the, these aren't the Lizardmen, for the Beastmen, the Wargor. All right, and there we go. There's that glorious looking Wargor. And personally, I find the Gors to be the coolest portion of the Beastmen. I know they're kind of like boring, like, oh, it's just a biped dude, but like Minotaurs are great, but look at that Wargor, it looks rad. Again, the Tuskgors, look at the nice Tuskgor models. We'll compare them to the Razor Gors in just a little bit, but looking really hot and spicy here. A very nice little durable, tankier hero choice for the Beastmen, which is again gives some nice durability to the roster. As far as heroes are concerned, very run-of-the-mill when it comes to what we've seen so far added in the last couple DLCs. Again, as far as a DLC style defensive character. On foot, he does have a shield, so this is not reflected on his actual mount option, so that's worth noting. He gets either the Razor Gore or the Tuskgors. He gets the Sword of Anti-Heroes, the Onslaught, and then the Potion of Speed. But also gets this ability, the Will of the Dark Gods. So not only does he have Encourage, right there, but he also gives Will of the Dark Gods, which is going to increase leadership and melee defense in a 40-meter radius around him. So if he's on a mount with other chariots, that's going to be nice. If he's in the thick of things, helping stuff out on foot, that's still going to be quite nice. But Wargor, a nice new little defensive character, adding some stockiness to the Beastmen roster. Let's jump now into some units, starting with just the Tuskgor Chariot. Here we go, Tuskgor Chariots. Again, I mean, it almost looks like we're looking at the Wargor still a very similar model, but the Tuskgor Chariot is nice. It comes in at 750 points compared to the Razor Gore's 1150. So you save 400 points for a model or for a unit. That's really not that much different than the Razor Gore. I've brought up some Razor Gores with us to take a look at a stat comparison here, but you can see by taking a look at the both of them. Actually, press start battle. This looks cooler. You can see the difference all the way across the board. You're going to be losing 20 armor, 10 leadership, 6 melee attack, defense, and weapon strength, and then 18 charge bonus. But at 750 points, you can just get so much more value out of the Tuskgor Chariots by comparison to the Razor Gore Chariots that I think that we're very rarely going to be seeing that unit used aside from the actual Razor Gore herd itself. I'd much rather use this chariot unit and get more out of them for less cost and spend the points elsewhere in my army. Even taking a look at the model, like I was saying earlier, Razor Gores look so haggard now by comparison to the Tuskgor. Tuskgor looks so sleek, nice, new, like a Porsche versus, I don't know what the hell that thing is. I do, it's disgusting, it's horrifying. Look at that thing, oh god. But there's the new Tuskgor, looking nice and cool, but our new chariot unit now for the Beastmen. There it is. The Ghorgon. Probably my favorite new addition to the roster. And let's take a look at him. He's girthy. He's great. So he brings, don't show me your back. So he brings a lot of AP anti-large damage to the table here. Very low in the armor department at 50, which is going to be an issue when you're playing in multiplayer. Again, in campaign, not as huge, but 85 leadership here, so at least he'll be able to be a little bit stickier with 64 speed, 57, and 34 attack and defense. Again, a nice 520 on that weapon strength, 420 of it being AP damage as well. Has regeneration, or I'm sorry, strength from flesh, which is essentially regeneration, giving him restore 8 points, but he has to be in melee. That's the difference here between just standard regeneration. Typically when you look at stuff like trolls or wolfkin, oh, they're fleeing. Well, that's actually giving them time to regenerate because regenerate works passively no matter what. This strength from flesh is representative of the tabletop rule, which allowed you to eat things and restore a wound point. This just gives you, hey, you're staying in combat, you're getting health. So you get that represented in this. You also get blood greed, and you're going to be causing terror, and you're a woodsman as a Ghorgon. But the new beautiful unit, and we'll take a look to it, the Regiment of Renown. I misspoke. Taurox isn't the one covered in corn effigies. It is the Regiment of Renown Ghorgon. So we'll look at that one in just a bit. We're going to look at all the Regiments of Renown as one, but now let's look at the Jabberslythe. And look at this little kitty cat. The Jabberslythe is looking just grotesque and disgusting. Good lord. Let's take a look at those stats. Now, Jabberslythe here has some AP, and he's got some magic, and he's got some anti-infantry, and he's got poison damage. So he has a lot of tools up his sleeve. Again, like the Ghorgon, very low in the armor department at 60 with 80 leadership. Nice good speed at 65. A lot of people are probably wondering, does he fly? Because you can see his idle animation. I'll just show you. He doesn't. He kind of lumbers about. Sometimes he'll kind of pick up off the ground and do that, but no actual flying. I couldn't have him fly over a wall if I wanted to. But he's got two abilities here that are quite nice. The first one is called Spurting Bile Blood. And this will do damage around him every 15 seconds. We got this very similar attribute to this in the Lizardmen Regiment of Renown for the Lizardmen Regiment of Renown for the Stegodon, where it crash thunder around you. Well, Spurting Bile Blood will just shoot basically a aura of poison damage and do a lot of damage towards infantry. This thing is an infantry killer, whereas the Ghorgon is an anti-large. And we speculated about this, right? Saying they're probably going to be like that. A Jabberslythe would go towards infantry, Ghorgon would be towards large, and that's exactly what we're seeing here today. Also, again, take a look at the poison. Like I was saying earlier, it's been reduced down from, I think it was 20% or 25 to now 15. That'll be live with the patch come July 14th. Then lastly, we get Aura of Madness here. Now this is different. It is a Mortis Engine effect where it will do persistent damage, but it's not like a Mortis Engine effect in that it will always do it. It has to be, it's conditional. The unit has to be lower than 50% leadership. So as leadership starts to tank, the Jabberslythe will do more damage because their Aura of Madness will trigger on that unit and do damage to them because they're under 50% leadership. So that is the Jabberslythe. That's the new disgusting unit. Now let's look at the Regiments of Renown, including the two that we just talked about and a unit of the original roster that's got a Regiment of Renown as well. There you go. Look at those Regiments of Renown. Just to give you a perspective of size for the Jabberslythe and the Ghorgon. Whew. You can see the corn effigies all over the Ghorgon. Oh, God, I love it. Now, the Gore Hooves of Wolf's Run are Centaurs with throwing axes, and they have a pretty cool profile here. They're going to be doing poison damage on both their ranged as well as their melee attack. They're fast units, of course, but they also get Perfect Vigor, which is great. You have your standard Vanguard deployment. They also have Immune to Psychology, Fire Whilst Moving, all the typical kind of kit, but they get Drunken Bravado here. So this will restore hit points, grant leadership, and help out with that Perfect Vigor when leadership is wavering. So a great little addition to this unit, as Centaurs with throwing axes can be quite devastating against a hard target. When you take a look at someone like, say, hey, Karl Franz, I want to focus him down quickly, your Centaurs with throwing axes can really do that. But now that these guys have a ranged poison ability, it's quite nice to see that on the table here. I'm just going to go ahead and show you the AP damage of this again, and they also get the poison or the melee attack as well. Moving over to the Jabberslythe, we'll take a look at this guy. Very similar stat line, but different at the same time. Now, the original one had magic damage and poison damage. This one now has Sundered Armor, so a little bit different there. In addition to, we get Searing Bile Blood, which is different than Spurting Bile Blood. So this one will do better damage towards armored units, and it does, well, obviously, Sundered Armor versus the other one being just a generic poison. So you can throw this into a more elite unit and actually get a little bit better result from it because it is an anti-infantry monster, and Searing Bile Blood will help out with that in addition to his Sundering Armor. So a lot of stacking armor debuffs to help out with your other units like Bestigors supporting the Vobergland Broodmother. God, what a name. Now, for my favorite unit, with my favorite Regiment of Renown. Like, look at that thing. Look at that. Look at this little cod piece. Well, that's a shin guard. But the cod piece of corn right there. Look at that. Sweet, man. Like, just looks so cool. Like, I really love the way this looks because this tells me that, man, what would a Tzeentch version of this look like? What would a Nurgle version of this look like? And so on and so forth. So I hope in Game 3, we do get these different flavors of Beastmen and Warriors of Chaos with the smattering of different gods on them. Now, with the Bloodbrute of Behemoth, we get something different. Now, with the Ghorgon, AP Anti-Large causes terror. With the Bloodbrute Behemoth, we get scaling damage. The amount of damage that this unit causes increases based on the amount of hit points the target has lost. So, it will do more damage over time, just like Deathmaster Snitch does. So, really awesome to see on this character. We also get Frenzy. We get, again, Strength from Flesh. We get Causes Terror, of course, Immune to Psychology, and then the Blood Greed. As far as stats go, you know, it's going to be pretty much the same. You're getting just a rank 9 Ghorgon with some other attributes attacked onto it. So those are all of the new units, the new lords, the new heroes for the Beastmen. So go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, guys, anything else you'd like to see from the Beastmen. We've got more videos coming out. The DLC doesn't launch until July 14th, so there's still plenty of stuff to show off. Like I said before, I will be showing you guys a kind of like first 3 hours of Taurox's campaign and doing a giveaway for the Silence and the Fury DLC. So stay tuned for that on Saturday at 10:30 a.m. PST. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. And like I said, comment if you need to know anything else that I haven't covered, or if something that I didn't cover from a previous video that you still haven't gotten an answer from everyone else covering the content of the DLC. Please go and check out everyone else's videos, guys. Everyone has a different opinion of a lot of the stuff coming out. So please go and check out everyone's goodies that have been sprinkled across the last couple of weeks. But as always, have a good one and take care.